Hey, so I wanted to look at AMD. They have earnings coming out very soon, so this is like a good time for this. Uh, Last time we looked at them was on June 13th, been about a month and a half. At that time, it was trading at 129. Now, all of a sudden, it's 112. So, what I'd like to do is just, again, look at what we can expect for their second quarter earnings, which come out, looks like August 1st, so very soon. Uh, and then we'll just look at some news stories, what's going on with AMD over that time period. Then we'll switch into the technical analysis to see is 112 a good buy point, or if it's not, what is a good buy point. So let's start off with what we're projecting out, and we'll just start off on the left side to get an idea here. Global PC shipments totaled about 60 million units in the second quarter of 2023, which is down about 16 to 17% year over year. So, right off the bat, they're signaling that we should expect a decrease in sales, at least for PCs, which is a big chunk for AMD, but that's just kind of broad strokes here. So, let's narrow it in. Uh, Client revenue. So what AMD has done, and maybe let's just shift over here to the right side. AMD is projecting their second quarter to be $5.3 billion within 300 million. So it might be 5 billion, might be 5.6, but they're saying 5.3, which would be a 19% decline year over year. So that's kind of in line with the PCs in total, a little bit higher, but relatively similar, but it's flat quarter over quarter, which that says something. We're also estimating second quarter earnings per share at 57 cents. We're going to dig into that a little bit after I go through the revenue here. And then that's supposed to be a decline of about 45% on a year over year basis. Again, we'll look into that shortly. Uh, in terms of the revenue, so that 5.3 billion, that's getting made up, and this is one of the reasons why I like AMD is they're not the best at any particular thing, but they are well diversified. So if anything were to come up in terms of what we just saw, such as like a decline in PC shipments, yes, that seems to be impacting them more than I would have thought. Um, but well, let me just kind of explain. So we have client revenues here. That's seeing a big drop, 62%, but that just makes up about 800 million. So less than one of these 5.3 billion. So that's their smallest line, and that saw a big hit. But what's nice is the gaming revenue, which is their biggest, I believe. It actually so they have four revenue streams. They have the client revenues, the gaming revenues, data center revenue, and then we have embedded revenue. Data center was all the hype. It still kind of is the hype with AMD. They're projecting that to be about $1.3 billion, which would be an 8% drop. So that's their biggest market, or at least one of the bigger ones. Gaming is also at 1.5. It's supposed to be declining about 6% year over year. Again, this is kind of expected. But data centers, I'm very surprised to see that it's actually declining at all. I would have thought, if anything, it's flat. 8% is, it's not alarming. It's not like what it's client revenues, which dropped 67% year over year. I mean, that's crazy. But data center, their biggest market, that saw 8% decrease. But now here's where this diversified game plan that they have is the embedded revenues. I'm not familiar with that piece, but it was a big grower here. It grew 25% year over year. So they had a big loss, two relatively flat but on the losing end, so close losses. But then you have this embedded revenue, which, because it grew so much, they're actually projecting it to be the number one revenue stream for this company at 1.57. We'll see if all those hit. They should be relatively close, because if we shift over, we now go into what they're projecting, the analyst. We have uh, that 57 cents. We mentioned that earlier. The 5.3 is right here. We also have the current year. We'll dig into that shortly. But the earnings history, so last quarter, 56. That was the estimate. They came in at 60. That was a surprise. We have that highlighted at the bottom. You can see they're relatively close. Last quarter was the biggest change, and it was only 7% different. So I do expect this to be relatively in line with the 57. It might come in, it looks like it's more often that they beat it. So it might come in at like 58, 59. That would be good. In terms of the current year, that 285, they're currently at like $1.10. So way behind on that. If things accelerate in the second half, like people were saying, should be okay, but they're definitely behind. More behind than I would like. But we'll see. It's still early, and we want to see second quarter especially. And then the revenue. Not sure what they did last quarter. Indicates a year, but relatively flat. So I believe they made 5.3 last quarter, roughly, and they're going to do that again. That's on the lower half of the current year estimate at about 23. That'd be last quarter, and this quarter you're at like 10 and a half. So it's close. It's close to half, but just something we're paying attention to. So now let's pivot into the news, just what's been going on with them. So AMD, they have this FPGA based SoC type item. They introduced the Versal Premium VP1902, which claims the title of the world's largest adaptive SoC. And the reason I point that out is this was one of their new acquisitions. I believe it was Linux. They purchased that not too long ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and they were known for these FPGA type chips. They're using that. They have the world's largest. I feel like I would like to see it say the world's fastest or the world's most efficient, but the world's largest adaptive. So we'll see how that plays out. It seems like it was a big milestone for them. So that's something they put out. We also have, hopefully, this is probably going to get mentioned with multiple semiconductor stocks. But back in August of 22, the U.S. government asked NVIDIA and AMD to stop exporting top AI chips to China and Russia. I think that goes across the board. NVIDIA and AMD targeted because they're the top two right now. Intel's probably, I would imagine Intel is in that, but NVIDIA and AMD we're focusing on AMD right now. AMD received new licensing requirements from the U.S. Department of Commerce. These are applicable to its MI250 circuit intended for AI. So right now, just one chip of theirs, they need special approval to send it to China and Russia. So not a big hit. I wouldn't imagine it would be a big hit, but still worth mentioning. We have this Mosaic ML. They evaluated the AMD MI250 and the NVIDIA A100, both of which are a generation behind each company's flagship chip, but are still in high demand. I think they come out with a new chip almost on a yearly basis, sort of like a new phone. So this is like the 1 year model, I believe, possibly even less than a year, but we'll just round it to 1 year, or one cycle, I should say. And it found artificial intelligence chips with AMD are about 80% as fast as NVIDIA. The article also mentioned how as long as AMD continues to put out new software updates, that it could potentially catch NVIDIA's A100. And that seems to be the way AMD is going. They want to continue to make their last chip better with the upgrades. If NVIDIA doesn't do that type of thing, just keeps coming out with the next new thing, AMD's will always be about a step behind, but very close. And depending on price, that could be beneficial to them. Moving on, so China ended up striking back against all chips by default because China is restricting its export of metals that are critical to manufacturing semiconductors. The new rules specifically target gallium and germanium. This comes months after the U.S. imposed sweeping restrictions, all but banning shipments of advanced chips to China. So that's the response. U.S. is saying, hey, you can't have these certain high-level AI chips, while China's saying, okay, well, we're not going to export as much of this metal to make the chips. The United States, we're now hearing, is about to restrict the access of Chinese companies to cloud computing as a potential backdoor to getting advanced access to AI and these kinds of things. Very interesting. Additional restrictions. Again, cloud. That was one of our buzzwords in the past. If we just go back for a minute, cloud, I believe, falls under client revenues. It would definitely be client revenues or data centers. I would imagine. I guess I'm pulling that it's client revenues. If it's client revenues, that's their smallest revenue maker. Still, reasonable, close to $1 billion at this point. I guess we'll just see how it plays out. Let's see. But cloud, that's another thing that could potentially impact these companies, NVIDIA included, a few semiconductors, really. Moving on, we have AMD received an upgrade from this Northland Securities, saying that they could see the stock being up to 150. That's a nice note, because again, it's at, I believe, 112. So that's pretty good. We like to see that type of response. We also show that AMD is institutionally owned by 73% of the company is institutionally owned, which is not a bad thing. It looks like the top 25 shareholders of AMD makes up 46%, so that's fairly diversified. 25 different companies varying in size, and then you have another, who knows, 100 that make up the next 30-ish%, and then the rest of it is just people like us. We next have AMD appointed this Phil Guido as Chief Commercial Officer. He is transitioning, or let's see, the Executive Vice President and Chief Sales Officer, Darren Grasby, will transition into a new role as Executive Vice President, Strategic Partnerships, and that Phil Guido has joined the company as Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer. So he's going to be responsible for leading the AMD worldwide sales organization with a focus on further accelerating adoption of the company's leadership products with commercial and data center customers. Guido joins AMD after 30 years at IBM, where he most recently served as General Manager, Global Managing Partner, and Strategic Sales at IBM Consulting. Good luck to this guy. If someone follows IBM and knows what their general revenues have been, please let me know. If I remember, I will look into that, because if IBM sales were doing good under him during that 30-year period, he probably wasn't the manager for all 30 years, but probably the back 5, I would assume. If they were good, I would imagine AMD is going to be good. That's a long history, so I have to imagine he's jumping because AMD offered him more money to do the same job, I would hope, just at a smaller company. AMD is smaller than IBM. I feel like that's true. I'll need to double check that though. AMD, they announced that SAP has chosen AMD EPYC processor powered Google Cloud N2D virtual machines to run its cloud ERP delivery operations for RISE with SAP. So that's a big company that AMD is working with. It's always nice to see them make deals with companies like this. I will try to always highlight things like that to show, hey, they're working with these big names. We have multiple price targets here. All we're going to look at is this one in the middle. AMD, this is a different analyst that they're also projecting 150. So that is something we'll look forward to. So we're already starting to lean towards, but now might be a good time to buy this one. This is the last article before transitioning into the technical analysis. AMD is going to invest $400 million in India by 2028. So it will invest around $400 million in India over the next 5 years and will build its largest design center in the tech hub of Bangalore. AMD said it will open its new design center campus by the end of this year and create 3,000 new engineering roles within 5 years. So 3,000 people are about to get a great position here. So I'm looking into India's consumer discretionary. If you are aware of any India consumer discretionary type stocks, I would be very interested. I'm digging into it. If you just know some, like one thing I'm looking for is essentially the Walmart of America in India. Is there a Walmart type company in India that's, India owned, sort of like, I think it's Alibaba's in China and what is it, Amazon here. I'm looking for India's version of that. If I'm continuing to look, because this isn't the first time we've heard a company such as this investing a lot of money into India. We have AMD, Apple, Tesla, the United States as a whole. We're all putting a lot of money into India, and so I think it's gonna be a big trend for it, at least for the next 5-10 years, probably beyond. Anyway, this will increase AMD's office footprint in India to 10 locations, has more than 65 employees in the country already, so it's about a 50% growth plus that 400 million. I don't know how much money they put into it to get it to where it is now, but to get it that next 50% bump, $400 million is apparently going to cover it. India in 2021 unveiled a $10 billion incentive program for the chip sector. No company has so far managed to get clearance for setting up a fabrication plant, the centerpiece of Modi's ambitions. So he wanted like a TSM, an Intel, a Samsung potentially. Couldn't get any of those, but AMD's here. Other investments in India include a multi-year $400 million plan by U.S. chip equipment maker Applied Materials. This makes sense. Applied Materials probably has to supply AMD. In June to set up an engineering center, and then Micron, they have the chips they have the memory chips, which I'm sure link up to AMD and the other chips to some degree. They're going to put in $825 million. And again, some sort of incentive plan. So I'm guessing they won't be taxed. Some sort of benefit is going to happen. They're putting in 400 million into India, but they're clearly going to get something back, maybe in taxes, or I'm not sure what else they could get, but some sort of deal. But we'll keep looking into that. We'll follow along. But let's now pivot into our technical analysis. So again, the last time we looked at this was June 13th. So let's scroll in, find that. At that time, it was trading at 129. So June 13th, 129. That's all the way up here. So we can zoom in even more. So it's all the way up here. Since then, it's pulled back. I mean, that's kind of what we wanted to see. It's pulled back in the uptrend, which started back in November. So let me just look at the note. We had in an uptrend since November, financial statements on 8/1. We can remove that. We added a column so it has the earnings date. But that's the only note. In uptrend since November, I'm just going to add in here to buy the dips next time we see one. But yeah, I guess since then, since 129, it's pulled down. It seems to have now found some support at 110. So that to me is letting me know this one might be a buy. The only difference with this one is normally what we've seen with companies is they'll shoot off like this, trade sideways for a couple weeks, and then continue upwards. This one has stalled out, actually taken a step back. That's the one piece that's unique, and now going sideways. I overall I like it because back when it was in the 120s, during that time period, there was nothing in the quarterly statements or guidance that really uh, warranted that type of sharp movement up. I think it was just following Nvidia around that time, and so it shot up with it, and now it's pulling back into what we believe to be the acceptable range. And it's roughly in the middle. I'll look into it a little bit deeper, but I feel like it's probably going to get a fair value score as opposed to being at resistance. It's probably going to be in the fair range. So let's just start going through this. So we're going to change it from 129 up to, it's currently at 112. Buy points for this one, we marked 84, which is this blue line. I don't think that's going to happen. What I'm going to do is put in a line here-ish. It looks like it's finding support right around here. So this is probably a decent time to buy, in all honesty. But let me just, whoops. Let me just update the color here. So that, I'm thinking that might be a buy for us at 112. It looks like 111 is what I put it in at, so it's close enough. The buy points I had were 84. Again, that's this blue line down here. There was some support there, and some resistance. So 180 or 84, that's why that was marked. I'm just going to take it out because the uptrend's continued. We're past that point, so I'm going to pull that out. 94. So we had 94 going back to here. So at that time, that was the bottom of the uptrend. We have now transitioned. So if I were to choose that same, using that same type of method, right now it would actually be like 104. If we fast forward to the end of September, probably be like 109. So I'm going to change it to 109. So 94 is now 109. And then we had 100, and that's that red line here. It was like, it was staggering on its way down. It last hit its head at 100, then met all-time lows, and now it's been pushing up. It did hesitate there at 100, but it's clearly the uptrend. We're past that point, so I'm just going to remove that entirely. And that's, so I think that's my only buy point is 109, or no, 109, is that this? 109 and 111. 111 is that new green line that we put in. Only because that seems to be, it seems to have found support there. Yes, it's dipped a little bit lower, so, you know, the perfect spot would maybe be like 110, but 111, that's just where I drew the line. So 111 is my point of interest right now, so I most likely will pick some of this up on Monday morning or just the next trading day. Resistance, we had 100. We've clearly gone through that, and it now, and yeah, we can just take that one out. 120 we had as a resistance point. That is still kind of true. We passed it here just for a little bit, came right back to 120, and now we're here below that line. So 120 can stay. And I'll give that priority. And then 159. 159 is the black line. That's way up there. All I'm gonna do is, so we have resistance right now going into next week. The top of the channel would be 119. We have 120, so that's the same. Just looking ahead about a month, about 125. So not too crazy. I'm going to remove 159 because it's so far off at this point. I just put it in because NVIDIA was going up so quickly that I thought, hey, maybe AMD would do the same. It's not going as quickly though, which is, that's fine. Still going comfortably up. I'm going to import today's date. And yeah, I'm going to give this one a buy. So I'm just going to update the color. And that's it here. So just a quick recap. We have AMD currently there at 112. Buy points for me are 109 and 111. It's close enough. I'd be willing to at least pick up a share or two. I will mention the caveat is we know they're going to put up bad earnings, at least compared to last year. Quarter over quarter should be relatively flat, so that's good. It means they should reach the bottom. So because of the year-over-year dip, there is a potential that it could pull back further. If it does and we notice it, honestly, that means I'd probably just pick up more. If we look at this one more time, looking at next week, I mean, if this pulled back really to 104, that is good too. Like 104 is fine. But right now, 111, 109, that would be great too. Resistance, we have 120 and 125. 120, it's kind of struggled to get above that point. Yes, it has in the past. It's just lately it's struggled to get over that. 125, that would just be the top of that uptrend channel. We updated the date. We also, again, earnings are coming up. And then the note that we left ourselves is it's been in this uptrend since November of 2022, and we want to buy the dips on this. I feel like we're in a dip right now, so I will add a share or two. So that wraps this up. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know. Or if you saw something that I didn't mention or think I should have mentioned something, by all means, let me know in the comments. But please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.